No other record like that in American political history. Joe Biden won 6 consecutive elections to the United States Senate, serving 36 years. He then won 2 vice presidential elections. He ran for president 4 times with 1 win. And in his 4th run for president, he withdrew from the race and threw his support to Vice President Kamala Harris. Joe Biden's quest for the presidency began in his 3rd term as a United States Senator when he was 45 years old in 1988.
Today, I announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America.
That first Biden presidential campaign ended when the votes were counted at the Iowa caucus.
I've been here long enough to know that when the tide starts to roll, when things start to move, when things like this begin to happen, it requires all of one's time, energy, and concentration to put it back on track. At the same time, all of my energy and skill is required to deal with President Reagan's effort to reshape the Supreme Court in a way that I truly believe will be harmful for this country. And therefore, it seems to me I have a choice. I have to choose between running for president and doing my job to keep the Supreme Court from moving in a direction that I believe to be truly harmful. There will be other opportunities for me to campaign for president, but there will not be many other opportunities for me to influence President Reagan's choice on the Supreme Court. And although it's awfully clear to me what choice I have to make, I have to tell you honestly, I do it with incredible reluctance. I've concluded that I will stop being a candidate for President of the United States.
Joe Biden knew then that sometime he would be back on the presidential campaign trail, and 20 years later, he let Tim Russert break the news.
Are you running for president?
I am running for president.
Are you filing for exploratory committee?
I'll file an exploratory committee before the month is out.
This month?
This month.
And you're going to take on Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and all other comers?
I'm going to be Joe Biden, and I'm going to try to be the best Biden I can be. If I can, I got a shot. If I can't, I lose.
If I can't, I lose. Once again, the Biden presidential campaign ended the night of the Iowa caucuses, this time after a stunning, world-changing victory by the newest face in the race, Barack Obama.
There's so many of you who've sacrificed for me. I feel so indebted to you. But you know, folks, Jill and I, come on up here with me, Jilly. Jill and I, when we decided to do this, Jill and I decided to do this. We decided to do this for the right reasons, folks. You know, the reason to do this, the reason to make the effort that you made is because we really, really, really do believe in this country. We really do. I believe to the bottom of my being in the unmatchable, unlimited potential of the American people. I congratulate them all. I congratulate Barack on such a significant win. He deserves great credit. And let me tell you something. A lot of people said it's a great night to be a Democrat. It's not, but it's also a great night to be me. It's a great night to be me. Because you have invested your faith in, you know, I'm always quoting those Irish poets. But it is true. It is true, and I'll end this campaign the way I began it. History teaches us not to hope on this side of the grave. But then once in a lifetime, now, that longed-for tidal wave of justice rises up, and hope and history rhyme. My prayer for you is, my plea to you is, make sure it does. Make sure it does. Because we have the capacity to make hope and history rhyme. And you've given me great hope and great pride. Thank you very, very, very much. Thank you very much.
Joe Biden was one of the now countless presidential candidates whose presidential campaign ended on the night of the Iowa caucuses. Tonight, he became the first presidential candidate in history to give a withdrawal speech from a campaign that he won, the campaign for the Democratic nomination for president. Joe Biden stands alone on that point in history. Other presidents who could have sought re-election and chose not to made that decision before winning enough delegates for the presidential nomination. In 1948, President Harry Truman decided not to run for re-election and never campaigned for re-election. And 20 years later, President Lyndon Johnson decided not to run for re-election and never campaigned for re-election. George Washington established the tradition of presidents serving only 2 terms when he chose not to seek a 3rd term. But George Washington never said that presidents should serve only 2 terms and never believed that. George Washington's later explanations in private letters about not seeking a 3rd term included his belief that politics had become too nasty during his 2nd term for him to seek a 3rd term. And he believed that he probably couldn't win a 3rd term. Yes, George Washington believed that. In George Washington's long-written farewell address, he revealed that 4 years earlier, he began writing a farewell address at the end of his 1st term, but he changed his mind and offered himself as a candidate for re-election to a 2nd term only, he says, because of what he called the then perplexed and critical posture of our affairs with foreign nations. It turns out George Washington and Joe Biden shared that same reason for running for a 2nd term. Obviously, the single most important policy reason Joe Biden thought he should continue in the presidency in a 2nd term is what Washington called the perplexed and critical posture of our affairs with foreign nations. Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Gaza, China. Joe Biden is the best foreign policy president we have had since Franklin Delano Roosevelt led this country to victory in World War II. 2 weeks ago, President Joe Biden delivered the best televised presidential press conference on foreign policy in history. He handled serious questions about the most complex part of the president's job, what Washington called the perplexed and critical posture of our affairs with foreign nations. No president has ever answered such questions with more careful and precise clarity. But that didn't satisfy the critics who wanted Joe Biden to end his presidential campaign. And so the president, who managed the NATO alliance in support of Ukraine with incomparable mastery, went to work managing an orderly transition in a political environment on the verge of chaos. And on Sunday, first with the announcement on social media that he would stop campaigning for president, and second, with the announcement on social media of his endorsement of Kamala Harris, Joe Biden managed the most masterful transition of a presidential campaign from the Biden-Harris campaign to the Harris campaign, a transition the likes of which has never occurred before in history, a transition so fully and overwhelmingly successful that Vice President Kamala Harris had enough delegate votes pledged for the presidential nomination 34 hours later. And tonight, at 8:01 p.m., the President of the United States said this.
My fellow Americans, I'm speaking to you tonight from behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office. In this sacred space, I'm surrounded by portraits of extraordinary American presidents. Thomas Jefferson wrote the immortal words that guide this nation. George Washington, who showed us presidents are not kings. Abraham Lincoln, who implored us to reject malice. Franklin Roosevelt, who inspired us to reject fear. I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. And we can never forget that. And I never have.
The president had some questions for the American people.
We have to decide, do we still believe in honesty, decency, respect, freedom, justice, and democracy? In this moment, we can see those we disagree with not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. Can we do that? Does character in public life still matter?
President Biden made it very clear that those questions will be on the presidential election ballot this year. A vote for Kamala Harris means that a voter still believes in justice and democracy, and that character in public life still matters.
You know, in recent weeks, it's become clear to me that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now. My fellow Americans, it's been the privilege of my life to serve this nation for over 50 years. Nowhere else on earth could a kid with a stutter, from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claremont, Delaware, one day sit behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. But here I am. That's what's so special about America. We're a nation of promise and possibilities, of dreamers and doers, of ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things. I've given my heart and my soul to our nation.
Joining us now by phone is White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, who was in the Oval Office during the president's speech tonight. Karine, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Lawrence, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
To be in the Oval Office is always an honor. It always feels historic to us who have been there so few times. To you, I don't know if you've gotten used to it yet, but for me, when I was working in Washington, it always felt like I was walking into history no matter what the subject was. But tonight, Karine, tonight, you were in that room for a moment that is going to be in history books for hundreds of years, a moment that is going to be read about. You were in the room for that. What did it feel like? What was your personal experience in that room, including with everything you've personally been through at the White House leading up to this hour tonight?
Well, Lawrence, thank you so much for this opportunity. And you're correct. It's always an honor, and I'm always in awe. Every time I walk into the West Wing lobby, every time I'm in my office in the West Wing, it's always I'm always in awe. It's a privilege. It's an honor. And it's never lost on me how historic it is just to be the White House press secretary, just to be speaking on behalf of the President of the United States. Look, tonight, what the country witnessed, what I witnessed, what we all witnessed was historic. It is historic. We're talking about a man, as he has always done, put country first, right? Joe Biden, as the world saw tonight, understands the job he holds and the office he sat in tonight is bigger than one man, bigger than one person. And two quotes, if you don't mind, if I would love to share, and I know you've been, I was watching the opening of your show, but he said, "The great thing about America is here. Kings and dictators do not rule. The people do. History is in your hands. The power is in your hands. The idea of America lies in your hands. This is a president who understands, as he said tonight, the defense of democracy is more important than any title. And what we saw this weekend, this past Sunday, was selfless act, something very few politicians would ever do. I can't even name of another politician who would do that. So it was an incredibly powerful speech. He was surrounded by his family and his top aides. I was there, as you just mentioned in the intro. It was a moment I will never, ever, ever forget. And I could not be more prouder to have worked for this man. And I want to be crystal clear here. President Biden will go down in history as one of our greatest presidents, period, full stop.
Were there tears in that room as the president spoke?
It was emotional. It was emotional. I was emotional. I think we all, I don't think anyone after those remarks, that Oval Address, didn't feel the emotion of someone who has served this country 50 plus years, as he said in his statement, who has given his heart and soul. You felt it in the room even more so. You felt his heart and soul. You felt what this country means to him. And it was a beautiful moment, an emotional moment, but a historic moment. And, you know, at the end, we applauded him. He got, love from us in the room. He got love from his team. Afterwards, he was able to go to the Rose Garden. Hundreds of us, of the staff, got gathered together. The rain held off just a little bit, and he was able to show his appreciation to the team that has been with him, the staff that has been with him through these 3.5 years, obviously almost 4 years, and stood there, and we applauded him and we cheered him on, and he thanked us for the work that we've been able to do and the accomplishments, the historic accomplishments that we have able to get done. And you just saw, you saw people's iPhones and smartphones up and taking pictures. And it was a moment that we all needed. We could not be prouder of his leadership. We could not be prouder of what he's done, not just not just on Sunday, but certainly the last almost 4 years. It was a special moment. It was a special moment, Lawrence.
Karine, when did you find out that Sunday was going to be a busy day for you?
So basically what happened is the president on Saturday evening gathered with a small group of his advisors and his family, and he started to think through the next steps. And the next day, Sunday afternoon, he made his decision, and he called the vice president. And then he got on the phone with his assistants to the president, his top aides, and he told us at 1:45 that he had made this decision. And while we were on the phone, the letter was released, and the rest of the world found out. And that's how we found out. It is not an easy decision. It is a selfless decision. It is a hard decision. And he put country first. And that's what we saw. And then you heard him talk about passing the torch. I think that was a big theme of his Oval Address. And one more thing I would say, Lawrence, is that the last 4 years, the 4 years prior to this administration, you had a former president that stoked fear. That's what you had. And the last 4 years of this administration, you had President Biden that stoked healing and the importance of healing. And no other president, I don't believe, no other person would have been able to do what he has been able to do, is to try and bring the country together and give some healing that was so needed.
Karine, we all watched you on the first White House press briefing that you had to conduct after the debate, and how contentious it became in the room with the White House press corps. Obviously, a very, very difficult period for you. I can't think of a more difficult challenge that a White House press secretary has ever faced in the White House. As you moved through it and got to this past weekend, what was it like for you personally in that moment when you understood the president had made this decision to stop campaigning? What did you personally feel at that moment when you got that word?
Well, emotional, obviously, but some pride, a lot of pride. because it was certainly a moment where, again, I realized who I'm working for. Someone who is a great man, someone who understands what it means to be selfless, someone who understands. I mean, when you take these jobs, and you've been a public servant, Lawrence, you know how this is. And for me, when I take a job like this, you believe in the person that you're working for, right? You believe in the platform. You believe we're going to make change. You believe we're going to make people's lives better. And that's why I took this job. That's why I took this job. And we've been able to show that over and over and over by really putting forth an unprecedented record. So when I heard the news on Sunday, when I heard him talking to all of us on that call on Sunday, I thought to myself, yeah, this is the man that I signed up for. This is it. This is the man that I signed up to work for, right? This is what, you give up a lot of your life to be a public servant and to do everything that you can on behalf of the president that you work for and also on behalf of the American people. And so I felt emotional, but a lot of pride in the work that we have done and the person that I know to be our leader, right? His leadership certainly is something that we trust. It was a hard day for many of us. It doesn't even matter how you found out. It was a difficult day. But now we're in a place where, the president said, there's a lot at stake here. Our democracy is at stake. Our freedoms is at stake. And we have to do everything that we can to protect that. And that is why the president ran in 2020. That's what he's done the last 3.5 years. And now he's passing the torch and wants to make sure that that continues.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, I cannot thank you enough for joining us on this historic night. And I know I speak for the audience and their gratitude hearing from you tonight. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Lawrence. I appreciate you so much, Lawrence. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Former White House Chief of Staff to President Biden, Ron Klain, who was at President Biden's side for decades, beginning during Joe Biden's time in the United States Senate, will join us after this break.
What does a robot know about love? It takes a human to translate that leap in our hearts into something we can see and hold. Etsy.
Tamara, Izzy, and Emma. No one puts more love into logistics than these three. You need them. They need a retirement plan. Work with principals so we can help you with a plan that's right for your team. Let our expertise round out yours.
My mental health was better, but uncontrollable movements called TD, tardive dyskinesia, started disrupting my day.
TD felt embarrassing. I felt like disconnecting. I asked my doctor about treating my TD and learned about Ingrezza.
Ingrezza is clinically proven for reducing TD. Most people saw results in just 2 weeks. People taking Ingrezza can stay on most mental health meds. Only #1 prescribed Ingrezza has simple dosing for TD. Always 1 pill once daily. Ingrezza can cause depression, suicidal thoughts, or actions in patients with Huntington's disease. Pay close attention to and call your doctor if you become depressed, have sudden changes in mood, behaviors, feelings, or have thoughts of suicide. Don't take Ingrezza if you're allergic to its ingredients. Ingrezza may cause serious side effects including angioedema, potential heart rhythm problems, and abnormal movements. Report fevers, stiff muscles, or problems thinking, as these may be life-threatening. Sleepiness is the most common side effect.
Take control by asking your doctor about Ingrezza.
For moderate to severe Crohn's disease, Skyrizi is the first IL-23 inhibitor that can deliver remission and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Control of Crohn's means everything to me. Ask your gastroenterologist about Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
When trucks are what you do, you build game-changing trucks. Trucks that help you chase one of these.
If you feel it,
or a couple of these.
We got twins!
We build trucks that help you maneuver around one of these.
That's right.
Jump one of these and back away from one of these. We're Ram, and we were built for this, and this.
You don't face your fears.
You ride them. Twisters, now in theaters.
With Chime, I can get paid when I want. I couldn't believe it. I can get up to $500 of my pay on my schedule. There's no interest, no credit checks, no mandatory fees. And that's why I Chime. Join me at Chime.com and get paid when you say.
Can you do this? As early as your 40s, you may lose muscle and strength. Protein supports muscle health. Ensure Max Protein has a 30-gram blend of high-quality protein to feed muscles for up to 7 hours. So take the challenge. Ensure nutrition for strength and energy.
Every day, you push yourself to be better. Working long days and even longer nights. Then you're home, spending quality time with family. When your day ends, you've earned a healthy night's rest. The kind that can only be unlocked by the perfect sleep sanctuary of a Saatva luxury mattress. Handcrafted and assembled in our American factories. You deserve a great night's sleep.
Features, like the people they're made for, are meant to move. Groundbreaking targeted compression and an anatomical design for a custom-like fit, all backed by a lifetime guarantee. 15% off your first order at features.com.
When you step into a Warby Parker store, you're immediately met by, well, glasses. But there's more than meets the eye, like contact lenses, top-notch eye exams, expert opticians, and affordable prices. Visit one of our hundreds of stores around the country.
More than ever, you need clarity. More than ever, trust is everything. More than ever, democracy needs an ally. Facts must win the day. And questions need to be answered. Because more than ever, the work we do will reverberate for generations.
Like so many others, I've been blessed a million times in return with the love and support of the American people. I hope you have some idea how grateful I am to all of you. The great thing about America is here, kings and dictators do not rule, the people do. History is in your hands. The power is in your hands. The idea of America lies in your hands. We just have to keep faith, keep the faith. And remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And there's simply nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. So let's act together, preserve our democracy. God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Thank you.
Turning our discussion now, Joe Biden's first White House Chief of Staff, through President Biden, Ron Klain. Ron, thank you very much for joining us on this important night. And Ron, please indulge me for a second, because it turns out I had a senior moment in the earlier discussion. I think that I said that Harry Truman didn't run for re-election in 1948. Of course he did, and he beat Tom Dewey.
Won.
He didn't run in 1952. That was the option he had to run, and didn't run then. So I just needed to get that straightened out. We're all capable of those moments, it turns out, at any age. Ron, tell us, when did you start with Joe Biden?
In 1986, Lawrence. I started in 1986, worked on his 1988 presidential campaign, and then left his staff, came back again in 1989 for 3 years, and then rejoined him when he became vice president.
So what has it been like for you, Ron, from Sunday to here, knowing that this speech was coming tonight? All of us had a reaction on Sunday. A lot of us have talked about our reactions to this on Sunday. When did you know that the president was going to stop campaigning, and how did it feel for you?
Well, look, I think, as the president said tonight, I think his record, his leadership on the world stage, and his agenda for the next term justified him running for president again and staying in the race. But I think he came to realize that our party was divided on that question, and that the path forward was going to be a path of grinding it out through the convention and grinding it out through the fall. And instead, he chose a different path with so much at stake to not just leave the race, but to explicitly endorse Vice President Harris and to put the most qualified candidate forward to succeed him, a woman who's served in the administration for 4 years, the only other person other than Joe Biden who's taken the presidential daily brief every day for the past 3.5 years, who's represented the United States on the world stage at the Munich Security Conference, who's helped him pass this landmark legislation that he's passed. So he handed the baton to the best qualified person to be the next president of the United States and launched a campaign where, as he said in 2008, hope and history can rhyme. And I think that poetic campaign that he's launched with endorsing Vice President Harris is showing great results already. I think the people see why she'll be a great candidate, and I can tell you from working next door in the West Wing, she will be a great president.
Ron, how is the president doing?
He's doing very well. I've talked to him a couple of times since his decision, and he's very excited about Vice President Harris's campaign. I think he's obviously didn't expect it to work out this way, but he's embraced it fully and is thinking hard about what he can do to help her win and about more importantly, what he can do in the next 6 months to be a good president. And he's going to be announcing some plans on Supreme Court reform next week. He is going to, press through the tape here. He's going to continue to lead the world's democracies in the defense of freedom in Ukraine and countering Russian aggression. He's going to try to solve this war in the Middle East and end it on his watch, and continue to, lead the United States in the world and do whatever he can to help Vice President Harris defend democracy in the 2024 election.
Let's listen to what the president said tonight about what he's intending to do for the next 6 months.
Over the next 6 months, I'll be focused on doing my job as president. That means I'll continue to lower costs for hardworking families, grow our economy. I'll keep defending our personal freedoms and our civil rights, from the right to vote to the right to choose. I'll keep calling out hate and extremism. Make it clear there is no place in America for political violence or any violence ever, period. I'm going to keep speaking out to protect our kids from gun violence. Our planet from climate crisis is the existential threat. And I will keep fighting for my cancer moonshot so we can end cancer as we know it, because we can do it. I'm going to call for Supreme Court reform because this is critical to our democracy.
Ron, there is no senator, there is no one who has won elective office in our history who has cared more and worked harder for the kind of Supreme Court that we all want and that he believes the United States deserves. And I was so struck when I went back today to look at his 1988 withdrawal speech, the speech withdrawing from the campaign, from the presidential campaign, to say he was going back to the work of the Senate Judiciary Committee, where you served with him on the Senate Judiciary Committee, because he was concerned about where President Reagan was taking the Supreme Court.
Yeah, look, I think it was a similar moment in 1987 where he had to decide between pursuing his campaign or running the Judiciary Committee when facing the nomination of Robert Bork to the Supreme Court. And if Joe Biden hadn't focused on the Judiciary Committee, hadn't defeated the Bork nomination, and instead secured the nomination of Anthony Kennedy to the Supreme Court, the woman's right to choose would have been lost decades ago, and there would be no right to marriage equality in this country, because it was Justice Kennedy who wrote that opinion for the Supreme Court. And so our history for the past couple of decades at the court has been remarkably changed by Biden's leadership in defeating the Bork nomination and in securing Kennedy's confirmation to the Supreme Court. And so this is an issue that he's always put ahead of his own personal ambitions. He did that back in 1987. He's talking about that again tonight. I thought his speech tonight, Lawrence, was not only a speech that will go down in the annals of history of presidential leadership. I think it defines what citizenship means in America, putting country before yourself, putting service before ambition, and putting hope before hate. And I thought the values, the civic values contained in the president's speech tonight are a model for all American citizens in this country.
Ron, please stay with us across this commercial break, because I want to ask you about the staff, the White House staff and the campaign staff, because I think in a certain way they represent a lot of the audience who are watching this, the millions of people who are watching us tonight, because I spoke to a young White House staffer this weekend who I just happened to run into at a dinner table of about 10 people. She was one of them in her 20s, and she was very confused and hurt by what was happening and what had happened to the president at that point. This was actually Sunday night, and she was kind of hurt, and I sensed some anger and confusion about it all. I want you to guide us through those feelings after this break. Ron Klain will be back with us right after the break.
If you're living with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis or active psoriatic arthritis, symptoms can sometimes take you out of the moment. Now there's Skyrizi. So you can show up with clearer skin and show it off.
Nothing is everything.
With Skyrizi, you could take each step with 90% clearer skin. And if you have psoriatic arthritis, Skyrizi can help you get moving with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and less joint pain. And that means everything. Ask your doctor about how Skyrizi could help with your skin or joint symptoms. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Power E-Trade's easy-to-use tools make complex trading less complicated. Custom scans help you find new trading opportunities, while an earnings tool helps you plan your trades and stay on top of the market. E-Trade from Morgan Stanley.
Which looks better, this or this? Seems clear to me. If you love to save, check out the Wise Buy sales event going on right now at America's Best. Get 2 pairs of Progressives for just $129.95. Offer includes a comprehensive eye exam. Book an exam online today.
The bedroom suite, with deliberate details and modern functionality. For the indoor enthusiast, check in at Thuma.co.
I love that my daughter still needs me, but sometimes I can't help due to burning and stabbing pain in my hands. So I use Nervive.
Nervive's clinical dose of ALA reduces nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days.
Now I can help again. Feel the difference with Nervive.
HomeAglow just cleaned my entire house for $19. Seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeAglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
Many probiotics don't survive digestion. That means whatever you're taking for your gut probably isn't getting where it needs to go. Seed's DSO1 Daily Synbiotic is the 2-in-1 prebiotic and probiotic engineered to survive, bringing live bacteria all the way down to the colon, toward a healthy digestive, skin, heart, and immune system. Get started today with Seed's DSO1 Daily Synbiotic. Visit seed.com to order now.
Want the effects of Viagra, but faster? Meet Rose Sparks. They contain sildenafil and tadalafil, but Sparks dissolve under the tongue. Dissolvables work faster than old-school pills. Connect with a medical provider at ro.co/sparks.
We need a small business loan fast.
I got this.
Loan cannon!
There's a better way to get a fast small business loan. Go to OnDeck.com, and if approved, get your funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
Why do couples choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
I need help with their snoring.
Sleep Number does that.
Thank you.
And now save 40% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed, plus special financing. Shop now at sleepnumber.com.
We just signed the lease on our 3rd shop. My assistant went to customink.com to get new uniforms with all the locations. He found great products, uploaded new art, and had boxes sent to all the shops. Custom Ink makes it so easy. Get started today at customink.com.
So that's how they're so productive. They use Fiverr. Look how quickly they find freelancers. So simple.
Yeah, but why are they working in the dark?
Grow your business easily with freelancers. Fiverr.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband.
Still with us, Ron Klain. Ron, I spoke to one of those White House staffers who's in that group there tonight, a young White House staffer over the course of the weekend who was very, I think, confused and hurt by what she saw happen to Joe Biden over the last 3 weeks. How should those staffers be processing what they've been through?
Well, look, I do think it's been a painful few weeks, and I understand the team's frustration and sadness. Look at the president's record. He passed the largest economic recovery plan since FDR, the biggest infrastructure bill since Eisenhower was president, the second biggest health care plan since LBJ was president, got more judges on the federal bench than any president since JFK, passed the biggest gun control bill since Clinton, and the biggest climate change plan of any country in the world ever in history. All doing it while managing us out of the worst public health crisis since Wilson and the largest land war in Europe since Truman was president, with the narrowest majority on Capitol of any Democratic president in 100 years. So with that kind of record, you'd think there would be more support for the president going forward. But I think the president made a decision, made an important decision, not just to leave the race, but to explicitly set the course forward, to say, hey, there's one person who's super qualified to be our next nominee and to be our next president. She's been a partner in all the progress we've made. She's brought judgment to the Oval Office every day. She's been involved in key decisions in the Situation Room. She's represented the United States on the world stage. She understands the security threats the country faces. She served on the Intelligence Committee. She understands the domestic threats the country faces as a former prosecutor and as a member of the Judiciary Committee. And given her extensive experience on Capitol Hill and in the White House and in state government, there is no person better qualified to be the next president than Kamala Harris. And I think the thing that's important to understand about the president's decision wasn't just a decision to leave the race, but to put the race in one person's hands, the person best qualified to lead our party and to save our democracy in this election. So I hope people inside the White House understand that it was a decision filled with intentionality by the president, pointing a path forward. It obviously is painful in many respects, but I think the enthusiasm you see unleashed around the vice president, the deserved enthusiasm for her candidacy and for her historic candidacy, I think should energize everyone. It's energized me to move forward and see what we can do to try to make sure that his last wish as president, to see that she succeed him, be achieved, and that the incredibly talented team that he's assembled in Wilmington and the resources assembled there are put to work to get the vice president elected president of the United States.
The First Lady put out a handwritten note tonight saying, to those who never wavered, to those who refused to doubt, to those who always believed, my heart is full of gratitude. Thank you for the trust you put in Joe. Now it's time to put that trust in Kamala. Love, Jill. So she addresses it to those who never wavered. How is the First Lady and how is the President feeling about those who did waver, friends of theirs who wavered?
I think the President and the First Lady have a big heart, and I think that they always look forward, not back. And they are now all in on getting Vice President Harris elected, and as the President mentioned several times in his remarks tonight, uniting the party, pulling everyone together to make sure that she is our nominee and to make sure that she wins in the fall. And I think they are singularly focused on that, and not any kind of score settling or anything like that. That's not who Joe Biden is. He's a generous person. He works closely with political foes and political allies, and during his presidency worked with people who were trying to defeat his presidency altogether, and brought people who. And after all, if you look at the Vice President herself, her first debate in the 2019 involved a direct attack on now President Biden, and not only did he forgive that, he made her his vice president. And so, that's the kind of president he is. It's the kind of person he is. It's the kind of leader he is. Everyone saw that in the Oval Office tonight with his historic address, and they're going to see that on the campaign trail in the months ahead.
Ron, I had David Hogg lined up to join the show to talk about the huge surge in fundraising he's accomplished for Kamala Harris among young voters like him. He's agreed to step aside for tonight if we could do one more segment with you to stay with us. So we're going to be right back with more from Ron Klain.
New Mr. Clean Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser.
It's more magic than ever. With the scrubbing power of Magic Eraser and the cleaning power of Dawn, watch it make soaps come here, disappear.
And watch how sprays can leave grime like that. With up to 10 times the cleaning power, Foamy melts it on contact.
Magic. It makes this ring a thing of the past. Makes you forgetty about baked on spaghetti.
New Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser. Clean with more magic than ever.
remember when I said we need to screen for colon cancer?
Was that after I texted the age to screen was now 45? Because I said Cologuard.
Hey there.
Where did he come from?
Yep, with me, you can screen at home. Just talk to your provider. We'll screen with Cologuard and do it my way.
Cologuard is a one-of-a-kind way to screen for colon cancer that's effective and non-invasive. It's for people 45 plus at average risk, not high risk. False positive and negative results may occur.
Ask your provider for me. Cologuard.
If you have chronic kidney disease, you can reduce the risk of kidney failure with Farxiga, because there are places you'd like to be. Farxiga can cause serious side effects, including ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration, urinary tract or genital yeast infections, and low blood sugar. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Farxiga and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, an allergic reaction, or ketoacidosis.
Shop Etsy for classroom staples under $40 that are anything but basic. Find everything from personalized apparel and accessories to gifts for teachers. When you need back-to-school supplies under $40, everyone can agree on, Etsy has it.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Melissa, and together we started Fresh Clean Threads.
For most of my life, I've worn a black t-shirt, and most were either too short, too baggy, or weren't consistent.
Using my years of apparel experience, we set out to make the world's best-fitting t-shirt.
Since day one, our Fresh Clean tees were made to offer a flattering fit for all body types and not break the bank. Unleash your confidence at freshcleanthreads.com.
Right now, across the U.S., people are trying to ban books from public schools and public libraries. Yes, libraries.
We all have a First Amendment right to read and learn different viewpoints. That's why every book belongs on the shelf.
Yet book banning in the U.S. is worse than I've ever seen. It's people in power who want to control everything. Well, I say no to censorship.
And I say yes to freedom of speech and expression.
If you do too, please join us in supporting the American Civil Liberties Union today.
For over 100 years, the ACLU has fought for your rights and mine, including the right to read all manner of books. So please, call or go online to myaclu.org. For just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, you can become a guardian of liberty and help protect all the rights promised to us by the U.S. Constitution. Make no mistake, this move to ban books is a coordinated attack on students' right to learn. This is a clear violation of free speech.
That's why the ACLU is working to fight against censorship in all its forms. It is so important, now more than ever.
So please call or go to myaclu.org and become an ACLU Guardian of Liberty for just $19 a month. Use your credit card and you'll get this special We the People t-shirt and more to show you're helping to protect the rights of all people.
The ACLU is in all 50 states, D.C. and Puerto Rico, defending our First Amendment right of free speech and all of your constitutional rights.
Because we the people means all of us. So please, call or go online to myaclu.org today.
Childhood cancer it's hard, but St. Jude has gotten us through it. St. Jude is hope for every child diagnosed with cancer because the research is being shared all over the world.
I am Vice President of the United States of America. The President sets the policy. I am absolutely comfortable with the fact that men marrying men, women marrying women, and heterosexual men and women marrying women all are entitled to the same exact rights, all the civil rights, all the civil liberties. And quite frankly, I don't see much of a distinction beyond that.
Ron Klain is still with us. Ron, for me, one of the things that was so surprising about that moment was the vice president getting ahead of the president. If you said to me, which vice president got ahead of the president on policy, I never would have picked Joe Biden because he's so careful about his professional approach to those roles. How did that happen?
Well, I think the then vice president didn't think he was getting ahead of the president on policy. As he said at the outset, I don't set the administration's policy. He was speaking from the heart. about his personal views, about his values, and he's always going to be honest about that. He was very honest that day that he thought that equality, marriage equality, was a core value, was what he believed in as a civil right and a civil liberty, and he was just offering his own personal view. And he made it very clear that he wasn't speaking on behalf of the administration in saying that. And it did cause some consternation inside the West Wing, but ultimately President Obama adopted the same position, and you know, it was all good. I mean, I think great leaders lead from the heart, and President Biden's always led from the heart, and that was a moment of that.
Ron, I think we've just been through some of the nastiest 3 weeks that I've ever seen in the history of the Democratic Party. A lot of accusations flying around from unnamed sources about what was really going on inside the Biden White House, all unnamed sources, of course, blaming high-level staff for somehow creating this crisis by somehow hiding what President Biden's actual condition was. We all saw this same president on March 7th at the State of the Union, unhidden by anyone, delivering the best State of the Union address I've ever seen. But how do you respond to people who were saying right up until Sunday that somehow this crisis was the fault of the Biden staff, campaign and White House?
Well, I think that's ridiculous and unfair. I mean, first of all, in addition to the State of the Union, the president was out every day doing events, and would frequently do events where he'd announce a policy announcement and take questions from the press, not formal press conferences, but Q&A sessions, and everyone could watch those. And you know, and I think you see what he's done since the debate, where he went and gave vigorous campaign speeches in North Carolina, laid out an agenda for the next term in Michigan, gave that press conference you referred to earlier, a masterful press conference on foreign policy and some domestic issues as well, and did a number of TV interviews with Lester Holt, for example, and George Stephanopoulos. So I think the president has conducted his job. I think he's been accessible to the American people, and you know, I think obviously he is older. He's been honest about that. But look, Dean Phillips, the congressman from Minnesota, ran against Joe Biden in the Democratic primaries and said he's too old, he shouldn't be our nominee. And Democrats went and voted. And even in New Hampshire, where Joe Biden wasn't on the ballot, he won 4-1 against Dean Phillips. Democrats wrote him in, and you know, New Hampshire Democrats are a skeptical lot, and for them to go and write in Joe Biden showed the support he had in our party. So the decision he made tonight was a generous decision, or the decision made on Sunday, but it discussed it was a generous decision to point a path forward and to pass the torch to Vice President Harris and to say, let's unite as a party and let's get together behind the best qualified person to lead our party in this campaign, a person who has shown her qualifications in her 3.5 years as vice president, who's represented the U.S. on the world stage, who's been a key part of the achievements of this administration, and who has strong views about the path forward. And let's put the baton in her hand to run the next lap. And I think it was a courageous decision by the president and a powerful decision by the president, one that I think will pay off this year.
Ron, those 36 years ago when you made a decision to go to work for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Why Joe Biden?
Well, I got introduced by then-Senator Biden by a political consultant who I'd worked with in Massachusetts, a guy named John Martilla, who had helped run Biden's first campaign for the Senate back in 1972 and was assembling a team to get him ready for his 1988 presidential campaign. And I was right away impressed by the president's wit and charm, his kindness, his good heart, and his leadership and what he wanted to do for the country. He's always had a vision of helping the middle class. And, you know, Lawrence, past few decades, the middle class has really taken it on the chin in this country. Manufacturing jobs have gone overseas. The heartland of the country has been kind of hollowed out. And the past 3 years, Joe Biden's reversed that. For the first time since the 1950s, we're adding manufacturing jobs again. People with
Endurance saved me more than $7,000.
Without Endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With Endurance, you're covered. Endurance covers nearly every car on the road. Plus, You pick the mechanic you trust. acts now for $300 off any plan, plus a year of elite benefits and a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Call 1-877-204-1084.
Now.
Never clean your gutters again with LeafGuard. LeafGuard's seamless design keeps leaves, pests, and sediment out while directing water away from your home, giving you peace of mind that your home and family are protected from water damage with the industry's premier maintenance-free gutter system. Call 844-6LeafGuard right now for a free estimate and save 20% plus $500 off your purchase and installation. LeafGuard. Get it today, protected for life.
I've always been prone to hair thinning.
I'm genetically predisposed.
I just gave birth. I was under a lot of stress.
I started taking Nutrafol.
We test our formulations with the highest rigor of clinical trials, and we're the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement.
I noticed it becoming
Stronger and thicker.
Nutrafol has taken me back to the hair I was meant to have.
I am back to me.
Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
I have an obligation to find a way of telling this story that is fresh, that has angles that haven't been used in the course of the day, to bring my experience working in the Senate, working in journalism for many years, to try to make sense of what has happened in that news day and help you make sense of what it means to you and what it's going to mean to you tomorrow and what it's going to mean to you next year.
One of the things I like about what I get to do is that each day is pretty unique. I might find out that there's not a lot of new numbers in the world today, and so today's going to be a day I'm going to spend researching. The only way to really be prepared is to get it all in my brain ahead of time.
Ron Klain, who served on Joe Biden's Senate staff and President Obama's White House staff, and finally as President Biden's White House Chief of Staff, gets tonight's last word. The 11th Hour with Stephanie Ruhle starts now.
Tonight, Biden passes the torch and defends his legacy. The president speaks to the nation for the first time since exiting the 2024 race. Then the Democrats push to make Vice President Harris their official nominee, with votes beginning as early as August 1st. And the race to pick a running mate is on. I'll talk to one of the top contenders, Governor Tim Walz, as the 11th Hour gets underway on this Wednesday night.